Hi, I'm Shannon.
And I'm Sarah.
We're from the Taste of Home Test Kitchen. And today we're going to show you how to make this classic lemon meringue pie.
So first off, we're going to start off with our pie crust, which is really simple. It's just going to be some flour and some salt. We're just going to combine that here. Then we're going to add our shortening. And we're just going to cut that in until it reaches about a pea-sized shape.
This is a very simple crust. You don't have to chill it ahead of time. You don't want to overwork it, but you just want to mix it until it comes together into a ball. You can roll it out right away, and you don't even have to blind bake it. You can just pop it into the oven as is. I get too impatient for this step and I end up just rubbing the shortening in with my hands.
Okay, so now I have the shortening cut in to the size I want. So I'm slowly going to add in the water. You just want to add enough water till it forms a ball.
The brand of flour that you use, the humidity in the air, there are lots of things that can change how much water you need. The shortening in this recipe is going to make for a very tender, flaky crust, which can make it a little bit challenging to roll out and get into your pie plate. So if it breaks or cracks, don't be discouraged. You can just press it together again with your fingertip.
All right, at this point I think we're good to start rolling out our dough. The pie crust dough has come together pretty well and it sticks together, so I think we can roll it out on this parchment paper.
So we like to use parchment for this recipe because it is such a delicate flaky dough. It's going to help you transfer it into the pie plate later.
All right, I'm just gonna try and form it more into like a disc before we start rolling it out. And then we're gonna put another piece of parchment on top, which will help make it easier to roll out.
We've got this great rolling pin that has guides on it. This is gonna make sure that we roll our dough out to an even thickness. The guides that we have on the rolling pin are set at 1/8 of an inch thickness. That's about the thickness that you want for the pie crust so that it's big enough to fill out your pie plate. So this is why I like to use the parchment. It allows me to actually just move the crust into the plate.
If it sticks a little or it rips, you can just rework it into the pan. It's not a big deal at all.
So I press it into the bottom and up the sides, and here where it broke a little bit, I'm just gonna use my fingertips to press it back together.
Well, some of the extra pieces that are falling off here, you can kind of rework into places on the crust where it needs just a little extra dough so that all the fluting is symmetrical.
Because this is such a delicate crust, we're gonna do a very, very simple edge on it. We're not going to try to do any elaborate fluting or anything like that. We're just going to take a fork to the edge, kind of like Grandma used to do. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to use a fork. You just use the tines, and I'm going to do kind of a chevron pattern. And you just go around the edge, back and forth.
Another option instead of the fork could be a spoon or even a teaspoon. Just a simple design will do, as long as you press the crust onto the pie pan so that it doesn't shrink while it's baking.
So now we're going to take this, put it into a 425-degree oven until it's lightly browned. You don't want to fully bake it because it's going to bake again with the meringue later. While our crust is baking, next we're going to make our filling. So I'm going to start with some sugar and cornstarch, some flour, and some salt. Give that a mix, and then we'll slowly add in some water. I like to do the water a little at a time before it starts cooking, just to make sure there's no lumps. Okay, we have our base ingredients mixed together. I'm going to turn this on to medium-high heat and bring this to a boil so that the starch starts to thicken.
While she's working with the filling, I'm going to just zest and juice some lemon juice. It's really important to use fresh juice and not bottled or concentrate, just because it's really going to elevate the flavor of this lemon meringue pie. And then it calls for about 1 3/4 to 1.5 teaspoons of zest, but I think it's best to just use a whole lemon, no waste.
Because we want that fresh, bright flavor, that's why we're gonna add the juice and the zest at the very end, because we don't wanna cook it and make it bitter. So now I'm gonna take it off the heat, and we're gonna temper in our eggs. So I have 3 yolks in here. I'm just gonna break those up a little bit with my whisk. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of the hot mixture at a time. And just adding a little at a time like this helps prevent it from scrambling. So you're getting the eggs used to the warmth before you add them into the pan and cook them, because it helps insulate it and prevent scrambling. I can feel the warmth on the bottom of the bowl, so I think I've tempered enough. Now we can add the eggs into our pot. Now I'm gonna put it back on the heat, and I'm barely gonna take it over medium. It needs to be a little bit of a more gentle boil than when we did the initial boil for the starch.
Right. I'm just gonna strain my juice right now. The recipe calls for about 1/3 cup of lemon juice. So I'm just gonna use my hands, but you can feel free to use a strainer. I've managed to let some seeds come through too.
Yeah, we'll just pick those out with
Yeah.
a spoon. So you can see I've just got some gentle bubbles happening in here. And I'm just gonna let that go another minute just to make sure it's fully cooked through. Yeah. So I'm gonna take that off the heat.
You can go ahead and add the zest for you.
Thank you. As soon as this zest hits the hot filling, the whole house is gonna smell like lemon. It's really amazing. And I've got a little bit of butter for some richness. Let that melt in. And if you wanna add the lemon juice.
Sure.
We're gonna mix this just until it's combined, and then I'm gonna put a lid on it so it stays hot while we prepare the meringue.
And did you also want to maybe add some food coloring for an
Yes, I
added?
forgot to do that. So this isn't part of the recipe, but I like my desserts to look lemony. So just a couple drops of yellow food coloring. That just brightens it up and makes it look more citrusy. Putting the lid on it just keeps it hot until the meringue is ready, because when you spread the meringue on your pie, you want to make sure everything is hot.
For the meringue, we're going to start off making our cornstarch mixture, which begins with 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then our cornstarch. And I'm just going to whisk that together. And then I'm slowly going to add in my water. So again, there's not any lumps. And we're just going to cook this over medium heat until it becomes more clear.
You want to cook it until the starch becomes translucent. That way you know it's reached its full thickening power.
And as you can see, it's already thickening, so it happens pretty quickly. It's not going to be completely clear. It's going to stay a little cloudy-like, but this is basically what you're looking for here. All right, and now I'm just going to transfer this over to the mixing bowl.
To the cornstarch mixture, we're gonna add a little bit of vanilla and 4 egg whites that have been at room temperature for at least a half an hour. You don't get the maximum volume out of your egg whites unless they've really come to room temperature. So now we're gonna whisk this until it gets foamy, and then we'll add in the rest of our sugar. There we go. So here you can see we've got a good deal of foam. The egg whites have lightened up. So now we're gonna add our sugar in while it's mixing, 1 tablespoon at a time, to make sure it dissolves into it.
And you added the sugar in really slowly. to help it like incorporate better and not be as heavy so it doesn't collapse.
Right. You want to make sure that everything has dissolved, which is why I'm scraping it off the sides here. You don't want to end up with a heavy or a wet spot in your meringue. You want everything to be nice and fluffy. That looks promising.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Perfect.
We have all of our pieces ready. Now it's time to assemble our pie. So here is our baked cooled crust. To that, I'm gonna add our still warm filling.
She's just gonna spread the filling to the sides of the crust, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add the meringue right away. Because the filling's still hot, it'll help the meringue start cooking right away. I'm just gonna start with a little amount, and I'm gonna make sure to seal the meringue to the sides of the crust. That way it won't shrink during the baking process. I'm also trying not to press too hard so that the meringue doesn't deflate.
Fluffy marshmallow clouds.
There is a lot of volume to this meringue.
So where we baked our crust at a higher temperature at 425, we're gonna bake the pie now at a lower temperature of 350 just to cook and brown the meringue. If you do it at too high of a temperature, the meringue is gonna burn, but the inside won't be fully cooked.
All right, here's our finished pie. We baked it for about 25 minutes, and we baked it on the lowest rack, so that way it was even browning, and then the crust also was baking evenly as well.
After it came out, we let it sit on a rack for about an hour, and then we chilled it for at least 3 hours. You want that filling to be nice and cold before you cut it so that it'll set and not be steamy hot still.
No pressure.
Look at that. Woohoo!
There you go. Cheers.
Cheers. Crispy crust, set filling, non-weepy or wet meringue.
Super good.
Bye guys, I gotta go eat this.